Not know that our audio works, but yes, it does work. All right, great. Okay, howdy everybody. We gave you a minute just to get people in, if anybody's watching. So yeah, we got some people jumping in. Awesome. So Dom and I today wanted to actually have a chat because Dom got basically a form to fill out that we'd like to walk together on. So if you write any comments on social, we'll see them here and we'll post them up. This is going to be a really short show. But it's really to talk about that I think our industry is finally starting to pay the piper because of insurance. What I mean by that is insurance is based on actuarial data and what's called classes of insureds. And a class of insureds says this person has higher risk, this person has lower risk, and I'm going to set premiums appropriately or policies or what I'll even do or allow. And with our cyber world, the actuarial data is bullcrap, ultimately. It doesn't have any barrier to entry to who's deploying it. And so you have no real recompense for them to have a real insurance product. In fact, they're just keeping on raising prices. They keep losing. And we're finally starting to see the beginnings of a lot of this, actual controls in place that will help us fix this problem, right? So short story is, let's go through the form. Dom, do you have any thoughts to intro, or we just want to get right into it?
Yeah, so this came to us from a partner,
right?
Who's working with a customer, and this is what has come to them from their cyber insurance company. And I don't know, we might end up accidentally showing the insurance company's name, but I'm trying to be discreet here. There's no customer information or anything. But notice the title right off the bat. It's a ransomware supplemental application.
Yeah,
like it's
more to discuss if we're insuring you for this.
Right.
Right.
Which is crazy. So
yeah.
let's look through this real quick.
And the first part, look at section 1, general information. This is the applicant, this is your consumer, this is the business. But the IT department, it actually says the individual responsible, right? Did I miss it, Emily? No, we're still here, buddy. Hold on. Go ahead, you go.
The individual responsible for the applicant's network security. That's you.
Yeah.
That is you.
Yeah, that is the MSP, and specifically, it's a human's name. Mm-hmm. Right? And if you aren't familiar with the concept of subrogation is this understanding that an insurance company has the reason they have to pay this bill, they have to pay the insurance claim, and now they're going to start determining what were the responsible parties? Like, where did this really play out so that I can go sue those responsible parties? Well, guess what? You're writing your name on it. Right? You're saying, hey, here's my name, here's the title and position I'm at, here's how you contact me when you want to sue me, here's my current email address, here's the designations that say I know what I'm talking about, and then additionally, how many people are on your team? How many dedicated IT security personnel are on your team?
Can't see. Sorry, Justin's pinging me on Teams. It says he can't see the screen.
Can't see the screen. Does it not show your screen if I don't show you as a human?
Oh, maybe.
How about now, Justin?
Hold on, he back channeled me through Teams. If anyone's in the comments, can you see the?
Can you guys see our screen now? Oh, I just missed a comment. Hold on. Someone said can't see screen. Yep. What about now? Nathan Martin sees a screen.
Oh, I see it. There it is.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you, Nathan. Appreciate you, bud. Welcome, by the way, Brian DeGrave. Brian is actually a really good friend of mine that I've known for several years. Probably one of the finer humans on this earth. Paul Redding, he's kind of a decent human. But, no, I'm just kidding. I love you, Paul. I'm just teasing, man. That's awesome. Okay, great. Yeah, so I'm not good enough at hiding these. There we go. Yeah, so the point is that they're defining who is doing this form. Like, who's saying these answers are yeses or nos. Right? And that's huge. Thank you, David. So by signing below, you're confirming that you have reviewed all questions, section 3 through 5 of this supplemental application, and that to the best of your knowledge, all answers are complete and accurate. Additionally, you consent to receiving direct communications from the insurer and or its representatives regarding potentially urgent security issues identified in relation to the application's organization. Like, let's put this in perspective. This is subrogation, the beginning of those conversations, the beginning of the communications, the beginning of the discovery. You're going to have to be more of a professional. I've signed many of these as a financial advisor, right? I've signed many of these when I was having some fiduciary capacitance for someone, yet I don't have the same situation in IT usually, and now we're starting to see it. right? They're setting the groundwork for some of this. And what I wanted to dig into is that comment first. Paul says lies, love it. But the second comment is, let's look at what they put in here, guys and gals. Like, let's go through this. Dom, scroll forward. Let's do it.
So we start off with email security controls, and this is all pretty basic stuff, which I like. I think.
Unless you're not doing DMARC, unless you're not doing DKIM.
Well, these things you should be doing.
They are should-bes, yes. Yeah, do you tag external emails, right? Do you pre-screen in some form? Are you doing link scanning? Are you doing some type of email protection before it gets to the end user? And what they're trying to do is figure out their risk. They're actually asking intelligent questions, because if you aren't screening it ahead of time, it means I can deliver anything to the user and they've got to be the best in the world and always get it, never miss. Right? And so, I think, though, that's the beginnings of this. Have you implemented the following? Right? Have you added SPF to look and see if this is coming from a valid source? Have you checked for DKIM signature? And then have you done some overarching aspect to say, hey, listen, people can't spoof me, right? And added DMARC to that and reporting so you can actually identify who's attacking you. Or do you get to check C, none of the above?
Let's hope not.
Let's hope not. It makes it real easy in Office 365 to do at least DKIM, right?
And obviously SPF. And frankly, like now on the internet, you're not going to get your mail if you don't have SPF.
Probably.
People aren't going to get your mail. So.
But I can't tell you how many customers were so arrogantly angry and saying, I need an exclusion for this. I can't miss this revenue just because my person that I do business with sucks at SPF. Doesn't mean my spam filter should go. Like, I can't tell you how many times customers have came in on that high horse and said, make an exception for this shitty company that doesn't use SPF, that doesn't have any signature of their things. And so, I think this is sorry, got me on my damn high horse there.
So can you use access email through web application or a non-corporate device?
Right.
That's an important one.
The non-corporate device part of that aspect is trying to figure out, do you bring your own device, right? Let's think about what the question's really asking. If you're saying yes, they can put it on their home phone or their personal cell phone, then do you have controls for that? Right? If yes, do you enforce MFA? Right? Because now it's saying, okay, even if they're going to use a device that's probably rootkitted, that's probably, right? I want my favorite version of Android on this phone, so I'm going to root it and put... And what you're doing, though, is creating the gaps for these unknown shadow IT attacks that exist, right? So great question there. Do you use Office 365? And if yes, do you use ATP?
And it's so specific. And it was kind of shocking. Now, obviously, it's not called ATP anymore, but that doesn't matter. It's so specific. It says, do you use this product?
Right.
And I don't think it's an endorsement or anything, but I think they're trying to get
data gathering.
Are you using?
Yeah. Are you on-prem? Do you have all of the other risks of potentially these other things with Exchange, or are you using Office 365? It's definitely a delineation in that, right?
Right. And I want to point out in Section D, do you allow non-corporate devices and do they use MFA?
Right.
That's a repetitive theme here, but what's interesting is they're now breaking down MFA.
Yeah.
It's not just, do you do this thing? It's, do you do this thing here?
And how are you doing it? And what type of it are you doing?
And that's where we're headed now.
And part of that is because there is no barrier to entry in our world. Right? And what I mean by that is, like, I was not just some technical person that got a degree and then went and got a cert. Now I move. No, it's kind of an apprenticeship type model, right? We kind of enter into this kind of this career. And so the challenge is that means that if you have, let's say, blood pressure medicine, if I take lisinopril or I don't take lisinopril, there's not a lot of question as to whether it was lisinopril.
Right.
With us, when we say, did you implement MFA, that might not be lisinopril. Right? There might be other things, and so they don't have the same efficaciousness that you would have in the way of a lot more defined things. And so what attorneys do with that is they have a bar exam. And they have a way to fire bad attorneys and get them out and take away their bar licensing and take away their state representation for being able to do it in that state and practice law in that state. We don't have that, which means shitty people can do shitty jobs deploying something, which means even if you check the yes, it's a lie in the actuarial data. I don't lie in the actuarial data. I'm fat, and if I don't take my blood pressure medicine, I die. It's fairly linear, right? A lot of variables, but it's not lying in the actuarial data where we have this poisoned actuarial pool in the insurance side.
Well, it comes down to, like, did you implement MFA and I'm sending a text message. Or did you implement MFA and, like, I need some sort of out-of-band approval that is encrypted, right?
There was a story today about a Coinbase account that the couple had MFA, it was text message, and they stole $24,000 out of it. And it was poignant because mine got compromised last weekend, and my 2FA saved it, right? And I had a FIDO token as my 2FA instead of a text message, and they were probably leveraging some SS7 or some SIM cloning or other methodologies to try to beat that person.
So I want to point out before we get into the questions, it says if you answer If the answer to any question in the section is no, please provide additional details.
Yeah.
And that is your indicator that like no is bad.
Yeah, no is bad here.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Like,
And they
yeah,
want you to really spell out why you said no.
do you store data in the cloud? If you use more than one provider to access data, please specify the cloud providers. Like they're gathering data.
Right.
Right? They're gathering this actuarial cloud of data that they need to continue moving forward.
You know what this is car insurance.
Yeah.
They're finally starting to build risk pools.
Yes. Yeah. Car insurance with your risk pool is different. How much is the value worth? But also, does it go fast and is it known for rolling over and catching on fire? Right. Like there's such other aspects in that. Yeah. Do you have MFA and secure all cloud provider services, right? Common theme, same thing. AWS, they're actually giving EGs, right? They're saying Microsoft Azure, AWS. I don't think they said OneDrive, but Google Cloud. I'm assuming they're just kind of consuming that as that beast. But do you allow? I can't read that.
Yeah. Do you allow remote access to your network?
Right.
Another one.
And what is a network now? Right.
That's
I think that conversation shifts very heavily, but they at least try to define it with RDP.
Right.
You know, do you have MFA on that? Tell me which one.
Select your MFA. Now here's the interesting thing.
Was there a drop down?
It's not rendering right now, but earlier was a drop down. I think.
Oh, you have to choose it. Yeah. So it is a select.
So it's not. You can't be like, we wrote it ourselves. No, it's.
I wrote a script.
Very specific.
Yeah, they're wanting to gather that so they can normalize those risk pools, right? To use next generation antivirus, like define that, right? I suppose, and that's why they have the select
and they have a drop down here.
And it's unfortunate it's not rendering. No worries. So,
this one works.
But they are asking, right? Like, and it's not showing up there from what I can tell, but they are asking, and it's probably because you're sharing the tab, not the screen. I'm guessing that steps out. Great question.
It doesn't work for me too. It's super weird. But
at what
I was
point
looking at EDRs.
Yeah.
All the common EDRs are there.
Yeah, at what points with total out-of-pocket costs? Oh, that's actually a great conversation. I mean, that would be your deductible, right? But like almost accepting that there's a shared responsibility model, Shiva. Like I think that's what you're trying to say there, and that we have like this co-paid aspect, and here's the percentage that we're going to pay. It's probably a prescient conversation. You got one ahead of me on that one, Shiva.
Yeah.
I think you might be correct. It's coming. Certainly the deductible and certainly the non-payment clauses.
Yeah.
But I think you might be right on saying like we all kind of understand this is a risk and it's going to be there. Let's set some known governing costs on an ongoing basis. Like, yeah, I like that, Shiva. That's pretty cool. I'd love to explore that with you in chat. Do you use next gen? Do you use EDR? Right, and they're trying, and some of these are marketing terms, right? Because EDR, endpoint detection and response. How much? What are you responding to? What's your purview? What's the capabilities of it? But they're normalizing it, right? They have in-game endpoint protection. I don't know that I've even heard of that one actually. It's interesting. Or are they just putting a fake one in there as the default example?
No, that's
okay.
It's in a list of a bunch of big ones.
Gotcha. And do you use MFA to protect against privileged user accounts? And we could probably read these ad nauseum, and I don't want to beat people to death with it.
There
but
we go.
there we go.
So we got Defender, Carbon Black, AMP,
CrowdStrike.
amps in there. CrowdStrike, Cyber your basics. There's Sophos. And
they have S1 on there. S1 in their mind. Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Same thing with Cyber Reason. Did they stay on there?
Cyber Reason's on there.
Nice. Yeah. Cool.
Solar
Defender endpoint.
That's
What? Look at them. I don't know if that's a bad shadow one in their mind or if that's actually a poke in the right direction in their mind. I'm interested in what they're trying to get.
It's not very specific either.
No, it's not. That's very interesting.
You might get a follow up on that one. Be like, what are you paying for Defender?
Yeah, what are you right? Do you record and track all software and hardware assets? Like if you look at these questions are the inverse questions on your CIS controls.
Yep.
Right? They're the inverse questions from your NIST. They're just the prescriptive, do you use this? Right? Do you roll out hardened baseline configs?
And look at this, PAM.
Yeah. Do you manage privileged accounts using PAM software? CyberArk, Beyond Trust. Name one of the MSP space ones, right? That do rotational passwords. Microsoft privileged, account management escalation using GDAPS as that comes available. But you're starting to have these questions that I think really define risk. Like this is a very good list of questions.
Right.
How do you roll out baselines? Like I think people will lie on these forms a lot, and I think as they lie on these forms, I think you're going to start creating some of the actuarial separation for them to not pay claims or to subrogate those claims to the parties that
the one who signed the form.
Yeah, the ones that lied, the ones that said, "Oh yeah, we're doing that." I mean, and these are yes/no questions, Boolean answers to somewhat nuanced questions. So there's still risk there, right? But do you record and track all software Oh, no shit. Sorry, I cussed online, but yeah, no doubt, Shiv. Like, are you just buying it? Or are you using it? Or are you
Right.
looking at it? Are you hunting for threats? Are you looking at post incidents? Are you, yeah, right. And that is the risk. That's kind of what I'm trying to point out, Shiva, right? Like, the actuarial data is still just rounded averages
Right.
because of that very statement, right? But if you, let's say, did you get married? Right? That's a very yes, no. Did all the legal things that have to happen in the courthouse and those
Right.
things satisfy the requirements of the definition of being married? And who can do it? Well, justice of peace, but then it still has to be filed through the court system. There's very defined things, but yet we say, oh, I bought Sentinel One. Great.
That's cool. Yeah.
How far did you deploy it? What's the
Right.
deployment methodology? What's your threat hunting side of things? Are you piping that data somewhere where you can look at it ex post facto? Like,
Right.
there's a lot that goes into that, but I do like it. Are you using protective DNS services in the question? Right? And they name
That's a huge
names.
one.
Zscaler, Quad9, OpenDNS, Public Sector DNS, right? To block access to known malicious websites. Do you use endpoint isolation and containment technology on all endpoints? Right? Like, are you doing things that are taking that risk and isolating its breadth?
Another drop down too.
And they
is
name
a
them,
big,
yeah. Oh, wow. Cylance has that capability. Bitdefender has that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's really neat that they've already got some curated examples for people to try to help with that. And that must be what they've already found a lot of the categories fit in, mainly in the enterprise space.
Yeah, I was
my
going to
God.
say these are very enterprisey products.
Yeah, this
So,
and Morphosex on there. Did you see that?
are they?
They were. Very interesting. That's cool.
Shout out to Morphosis.
Shout out to Morphosex for making the list of rando insurance company.
That's pretty cool.
That's so neat. Very cool. Do you utilize a SIM, right? Like, are you using a SIM? Which also goes back to this, I'll put the same question. I'll just like post the same question back up and put SIM.
Yeah.
Are you buying it and are you using it? And if so, who's using it and who's responding?
That would be your sock.
Which is the next question of who's your sock. And if yes,
And these are where they're trying to catch you.
Yes.
'Cause if you put yes for sim and no for sock,
you're obviously
You're not doing it.
or vice versa.
Or vice
I've got
versa.
a sock that just looks to send to one. Great. Where's the extra data?
Right.
Well, they do use Hunter and Threat. Like, you start getting into some of these platforms, getting enough extensibility, but still not there.
here's an interesting one. We kind of went over. Can users run Microsoft Office macro-enabled documents on their system by default?
yeah.
That is such a specific
It's a very
question.
nuanced MSHTML and macro attack methodology question, right? Like,
But it's so damn common, and they've probably paid so many claims based on that vector.
yeah.
To like,
And I would argue by default is actually a helpful point on this one from getting whooped, because when you start saying how many of my people have admin rights inside my organization, the answer is huge.
Yeah.
And so as you start thinking about that, default state becomes important, right? Because if I'm a threat actor and I gain any level of foothold,
Right.
I'm going to do the other things to enable the other things, right?
Right.
Like, I mean, that's the
Right.
point. Yeah. So.
and also, like in the PowerShell, do you implement PowerShell best practices outlining environment recommendations? on
With a
Microsoft?
hyperlink.
Yeah, with a hyperlink to
Here,
Microsoft.
do thises. Don't let non-admins set up these
Yeah.
things. But also, do you use a vuln management tool? Like, do you know your risk surface area? Right? You know, and I would love to see, do they have a drop down on that? Probably not. It's basically
Nope, just
Qualys and Nessus.
Please
and,
select your provider. Let's take a look.
let's see. Because I'm wondering if some of the newer players, Qualys, Tenable,
Yeah, Nessus,
yeah.
say.
So they've got the three.
The three.
Right, yeah. That's awesome. So you're starting to see new capabilities in that, right? You're seeing
Right.
it in, Novasoc has that capability. So does CyberReason, right? Like, so I'm sorry, so does, oh gosh, what's his name? Morgan's thing.
Oh.
Yeah. Damn it, somebody will help me in the thing. But,
Yeah.
we're starting to see more and more of these. Is there a vendor? Yeah, is there a difference between a vendor and a provider? Gosh, Shiva, like, I've always loved you. I love your questions. They make me so happy in my heart. Is there a difference between a vendor and a provider as far as that goes? We could delve into that. But yes, I mean, if you're saying, like, there's a vendor selling software that lets me do this versus someone that manages it, has all the processes and the policies and how they're going to deal with it and what they're going to do to document it and how they're going to show their growth, you can see a difference between a provider and a vendor.
I mean, I can go buy Nessus on
Yep.
Tenable's website right now and
Yep.
go run it and be like,
I don't have
cool,
a credit card that
vulnerabilities.
would take that charge at a certain scale.
Well,
but
you know,
it's okay. Very cool. Yeah. So we're really covering like the gamut of this. Now we get into BDR, right? So we're starting to talk about the recover side of these things, and what are we backing up? How how does it run? I bet they're gonna ask questions like, is it in a separate network space? Is it separated on separate credentials? Do you use MFA?
Check all that apply. So they just give you a whole list of
Oh,
stuff.
that's awesome. How frequently does it run? Daily, 0 to 24 hours of time it'll take to get me back up. So they're asking about your mean time to restoration for loss, right? Downtime, how much is the insurability?
They're looking for that.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
plain and simple.
Well, and they're talking about loss, right? Because they're
Yeah.
insuring against loss, operational loss, loss of business from that, loss of client, loss of relationship. So you're starting to see that they're trying to see what's my loss window, right? That's what mean time to restoration. Backups are encrypted. Yeah. And are they air gapped? Like, holy crap, that's the first thing I'm going to do is take that administrative credential. Like, we bought an MSP, and they had a separated network. Veeam was on a separate subnet. Everything's great. Tied to the same Active Directory.
Perfect.
Great. Solved. I'm in. Right? And like you start getting into these things where they're asking the questions about how immutable are the backups. Are we going to have to pay the ransom? I mean, that's what they're kind of asking, right? And, you know,
The nail on the head, different access credentials.
I think some of the gaps that I see in this actually really quickly is that they haven't decided, are you under regulatory or other risk, right? Because if you're trying to determine loss risk, yeah, that's probably done by the terms of the insurance policy though. Anyways, sorry, speaking
This
in
is
circles
just the
here.
ransomware.
Yeah.
addendum,
Speaking in
so.
circles here. You utilize MFA to access the backups. Your cloud encrypting service is protected by MFA, or cloud syncing service is protected by MFA, right? All in the same kind of conversation. You've tested successful restoration and recovery of key server configurations and data in the last 6 months. Duh, but most of the time not done.
Right.
Right? Like I've met many MSPs, we've bought MSPs, we've looked at buying MSPs that aren't. They're like, yeah, we got Veeam, it says it's good. Well, how do you validate that? Have you tried to restore stuff? Have you spun them up? Have you looked at them? And, you know, that's one of the things I will say for Datto is they try to make that fairly end-to-end turnkey, not plugging any vendors, but just saying that they've thought about a lot of that, spin it up, take a screenshot, prove it, booted, check things that you could architect yourself in Veeam, but they're kind of out of the box in some of those products. So, you know,
the interesting thing is in BDR in particular, they've really done a good job covering CI and A. Like, it's all here.
Yeah.
Like, are they encrypted? Yep. How long does
have
it
you
take
managed
to get them back?
integrity of them? Have
Right.
you? Yeah.
Right.
Availability timeline. Yeah. So they really did hit the CIA triad in this for sure. And this is the space for the no answers, right? Like the rest.
Not
of this.
big enough.
Yeah. No, I don't think so. And then the applicant's signature for liability insurance, and so and saying, hey, it's subject to the same representations and conditions. But what's interesting here is you have a third party filling it out, just like my tax preparer. When they sign that document saying they're the tax preparer, they've taken some fiduciary capacitance in that regard, right? They've said, I am somebody else that's not Matt Lee, signing on his behalf that everything's materially true.
The difference is your tax preparer is registered with the IRS and has certain credentials to be allowed to be a tax preparer, right?
I don't. I could be a total idiot, and a lot of times I am. And I think the point is that there is no barrier to entry, which means we do not have any defined what's being even, how it's being deployed. You could check yes to this and not have it efficaciously deployed, right? And that's what they're trying to build is that.
So when does the insurance company cash this check? We were talking about this earlier.
Yes.
And it's when you file a claim and they call their instant response company, and the instant response company comes out and says, yeah, they came in through here, there's no MFA, I see the phishing email, you're not getting paid. Like, it's that simple. And I think these insurance companies have written so many damn checks over the last couple of years.
Or you're getting paid, but we are going to take it upon ourselves to sue the subrogation.
The MSP, the one who signed this document. Right?
Yeah. And you have that. And in the same way that if there's some degree of a shared responsibility on my taxes,
right?
But if I hire someone and I can prove they've done it in a way that was not me,
right.
A lot of the criminal remunerations don't happen. Right. And so I think some of this kind of comes into we're a brand new entity of services, right? We're MSPs serving services and trying to decide what's an MSP, what's an MSSP, and that's what says your risk,
right?
And you're signing that form. And so I really don't have much more. We're starting to see some audience leave, and we didn't intend for this to be very long. So I don't have any closing thoughts other than I just want to make sure that MSPs understand that there is risk coming. And that risk is in the form of legal subrogation. That risk is in the form of these insurance answers. And I just think that you really should take some time to consider these questions on this form and start asking yourself, have we done these things, or do I have an answer that's better than no
And
here?
consider the pivot. That's my departing thought, is when I fill these out for customers, I would fill them out to the best of my ability, obviously, and accurately and truthfully.
Yep.
I wasn't signing that, right? Like it was, hey, please help us fill this out for our insurance company. You are signing your answers on this particular. So they are taking the responsibility and putting it on you. Whereas previously I'd fill it out and send it back, and then the customer would have to agree to sign it. I am agreeing to sign this. So that's It's a huge shift from what I've seen from cyber insurance in the past.
You know, Shiva, I think the last point here, what point does insurance become worthless? I think insurance is the poison pill that will deploy security in ways we've never expected.
Yeah.
Is it worthless? I mean, it's always just, you know, taking a risk pool and playing the lottery and hoping that you're under the bell curve. But, you know, the point is that we are going to start seeing insurance and bankers change the industry in a way that we can't regulate. We can't write licensing for. We can't have state governments try to say, do you have these questions? But a banker can say, I'm not going to lend you money. And an
Right.
insurer can say, I'm not going to cover your risk. And I think in the combination of those two, in fact, I think that so much, I said it 3 years ago. I had Risk Management Association in with 26 or 27 different bankers and insurers, you know, prominent people in the area, in the region. And we talked about this. And what we all came to was the banks own the risk. The insurers own the risk. Even if I sign a personal guarantee, if my business goes under and I'm a SMB proprietor, I probably am not very good for it after that.
Right.
It probably doesn't matter. And so the point is the banks are who holds that balloon. The banks are who holds that check. And I think that insurance and banking are the catalyst to drive this to at least a problem that's on the surface rather than a problem that's under the surface. Like, people talk about security in this panicked way of, can you protect me? Let's put Sentinel-1 on. That's one of 1,000 things I need to be doing that aren't regulated, that aren't governed. There's no restrictions to entry. I don't have to have anything that says I know what I'm doing, and I have no risk for doing it. Well, they're changing the risk. I think they're distributing the insurance is using their attorneys to distribute the risk to the providers in this way, through this form. And so I think insurance becoming worthless means insurance is already worthless today, Shiva, for cyber. They're just increasing the prices to cover the losses and trying to deny points of claims that they can find today. But they'll find that the data is all sinking sand, all of it, because you don't have any guidance of how to put it up. If you were going to insure a bridge span and you had no regulation of who made the bridge, you have no ability to quantify your risk, right? Other than trying to dig at those components. Let's go look at the sand. Let's go get the sand density. Let's go get... Well, those all things just got regulated. And so I think, you know, whether you're talking about this question from a chicken or egg perspective, I almost think insurance is worthless. When does insurance become valuable in cyber, in my opinion? So, yeah.
Well, and it's all new. There's no legal precedence. There's no criminal precedence. There's no civil precedence. So it's going to come.
I like creating it and creating it. I'm good with either. Thank you all for being here. We'll see you guys later.